Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. I'm glad to say I'm joined by two Dubs. One of them's exiled and one of them, well, it's really North County Dublin, so does it really count? Well, we'll soon find out. Barry Caul, the main man on Talking Dogs TV this Saturday coming, getting ready for his shot in the hot seat. And of course, we're also joined by the exiled Dub, as always, from his Youghal base, his country base, shall we say. A great weekend of racing, lads. We're going to be, of course, reflecting on the Con and Annie Kirby Memorial. Barry, you were down there. You were one of the, certainly of the three of us, you were the only one on track for any of the action. You were down there on a quarterfinal night. It was a tremendous competition and a great final.
Yeah, it was a great final. Like, first of all, the competition as a whole was a brilliant competition, and I must mention the GAA initiative as well. That seemed to get some great traction on Twitter, especially off the younger generation. And yeah, fantastic. Maybe it's something that we could look to do on the Derby or something like that. It's really captured the imagination. But the final as a whole, yeah, it was a great winner, Stone Park Leo. Like, I felt a little bit for Explosive Boy. I really thought he deserved a run on it. Sing Along Sally. I know it was a two-dog race really at the first bend. I know the machine finished second, like in a two-dog race, but he was never really going to get there. He done some huge running, but yeah, look, it was a great win by Stone Park Leo. Agent Stanley, he ran a blinder in defeat. Like, off the second bend, I thought he could have just checked out wide. I thought Stone Park Leo might have just checked out wide, and that could have been a different story then. But yeah, the machine ran huge. But yeah, good at the likes of Singing Along Sally and Explosive Boy. Didn't really get a clear run to make it a second final.
Tommy, we actually both went in print and tipped up Explosive Boy, but we knew our fate early. We knew it was going to go one of two ways. He was going to explode out and make all, or he wasn't going to explode out. There was going to be traffic on the inside. As it happens, that's what came about. Agent Stanley ran a big race. Stone Park Leo, obviously a tremendous winner, and the machine did unbelievable running in defeat. Disappointing for the three that didn't really get involved, the four that didn't really get involved, shall we say, in the early exchanges. I include the machine and that he did run on very strongly for second spot, but all in all, it was a great competition. And Stone Park Leo, a deserving winner all the same, because he didn't do things all right on Saturday night either.
The result, if you take it on the bare result, if you said to me, we had the chat here last week and we talked about Stone Park Leo being well drawn, and we were kind of half hoping that maybe after all his good performances that Explosive Boy would do it one more time, right? But if we moved from last Monday to today and we didn't see the race, but we had the result in front of us, we'd say, that's not really that big a surprise. But watching the race, a 1:38 from Stone Park Leo, last out of the boxes, you're thinking, okay, that's him gone. So all of a sudden it's the inside. I still can't figure out exactly what happened, how he got to the bend and how he got across four dogs without there being absolute carnage. I just don't understand it. I watched it numerous times. I was watching it live on RPG TV and rewinding and going, how is he? There was no point at which I still believe that he got across. Now, the funny thing was, and this is a slight curiosity, even though Agent Stanley emerged with huge credits, and Skippy Gilbert, we kind of expected anyway from Skippy. It was that dog absolutely ran his heart out. I think he's probably limited to what he's doing every week, around about the 28-40, mid 28-40s, 28-50s, when something gets in front of him. He didn't move as wide as I thought he would. He went out maybe to edge out to lane 2, maybe slightly 3, took the first bend well, but when 6 cut the bend, he moved to challenge inside. So all of a sudden you've got the 6 dog challenging up the inside, the 1 dog on the outside going down the back. And obviously the Stone Park Leo will be the stronger dog over 5-5, and the kind of result was kind of half inevitable, as long as they didn't clash up the third bend. As long as Stone Park Leo got in there and got right up sides, not a half length down, but right up sides going into the third bend, the race was over. The machine ran huge. We can go back over the rest. I'm Sing Along Sally. I had my concerns about her being good enough yet. She's a smashing bitch and she's got time to develop. She broke really well, but breaking really well in the Juvenile Classic and breaking really well in the final of the Kirby are two different things. She had specialist early pacers, dogs that could have an impact in the Bar 1 sprint and in the Laurels on her inner. She had those two of those to clear. So she received a little bump. Probably didn't help Explosive Boy. He just lacked. I don't want to put another dog into the bag of frustrating greyhounds in our list that I have, but he has a tendency to miss it every so often, doesn't he? And yeah. Slightly, and all you have to do when you've got Agent Stanley, who you can set your clock by breaking, no matter what box you put him into, you have to do everything right, and he just missed it slightly. And from where he was drawn, he just couldn't get out of trouble. If he was drawn in trap one, he would have had the pace probably to get up inside and all that. But just once you receive a tiny little bump from Sing Along Sally, and I don't think it was a really heavy bump early. I think it was just enough to kind of prevent him showing.
They were just rubbing. You know, it was
that's all
racing
it was.
as such. There was no real clash. There was no exact point where you go, oh, he took a bump there. It was just the fact that they were side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and neither could get loose as a result.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly it. Neither of them could really show what they're capable of. Now, the two greyhounds that will have plenty of things in the year. I would imagine the likes of Agent Stanley and Explosive Boy could both look at the Sprint Cup and the Laurels. I'd imagine both of those will go that direction. Stone Park Leo, I'm not sure what direction he'd go. How strong is he? Is he a Derby dog?
I don't know, Tommy. Like that's our 7th race the other night, you know. And in fairness, we've had this discussion so many times. 550 yards in Shelbourne Park. If you're getting 525 well, you'll get the 550 because you tend to roll that last 25 in Shelbourne, especially top of the ground. And the way Shelbourne's run at the moment, it's flying. You know, as I said, he's okay. He is February 19, but he's only had a 7th start. Barry, watching on, I actually got a text on Saturday night from Pat Flanagan, the owner of Agent Stanley, and it was something along the lines of, for 5 seconds I had the most unbelievable thrill. And I sort of said to him, I said, it's a shame you drifted off the second bend, but like that's what he does. And he said to me, I still don't know how the winner got around. We touched it there. I don't know how he got around because there was about 4 dogs sort of running across his backside as he cut, and all it took was going to be one. Exactly, and all of a sudden, Agent Stanley's going into the back 5, maybe 6 clear, because if that had happened, the machine may have got even more involved in traffic, and Agent Stanley was gone. As it happens, he avoided traffic, I would say, by roughly 2 millimeters, and the rest, is to say, is history.
I'd say people all week were desperate to see how the first 10, 15 yards unfolded, because I think if you could pause the race after maybe 20 yards the other night, and you were told back a dog and lay a dog in this race, the first dog he would have been laying is the winner, Stone Park Leo. He's missed the break. He's at least a half length behind the dog in 5th. And then you're looking, Agent Stanley is gone, and you're saying, what a draw the machine has now. He's just going to slip around after him and pick him up. And all of a sudden, if your picture broke and then you got to see that out of the second bend, how did this happen? How did 6 end up within a half length of the winner?
On the inside of him. On the inside of the second bend,
But even as we're going around the first 2 bends, I was just thinking 6 is going to just check outside him any second now. He was just that 3/4 of a length behind him, and I just thought he was just going to pop outside him, and it would have been game over. But in fairness to him, for a dog having a 7th race, his track craft was pretty good, and I think he will get 550. I was looking at him earlier on today. His breeding, it goes back to the likes of I think Catunda Lace is in there, and obviously Born Gem is his granddam. So I know they didn't really run over 550, but they produced strong pups, and they were strong over 525. And of course, I think what's his name, Blackstone Lace is in there, or Blackstone, or Like a Shot. Sorry, isn't he in there? He's closely related to him. He stayed 600.
He's the backstone breeding,
Yeah, so I think he definitely get it. Like he's definitely an exciting one, what I mean?
Yeah, Tommy. Again, it was only his 7th start, but he was the dog that was, he was the dog that was open to improvement of all of them, except for maybe Ballymacmurlin, who I think we've all agreed that isn't quite the finished article. He did actually run well into the corner tonight, just couldn't get around Ballymacmurlin, but Stone Park Leo certainly did. He showed tremendous early speed. He is a dog that probably hasn't reached his limit yet. There's probably a bit more in him anyway.
Definitely is, because he won the final in 28:38. He did 28:25 the previous week, and he'd have dipped under 28:25 too if he had broken properly the other day. You know what I mean? Although it might have been interesting because of where Agent Stanley was. It might have been interesting that he might have had to find a different way around him. And as Barry said, it might have been maybe having to switch outside, or it might have been having to do something slightly different. It just
did Agent Stanley make up his mind from off the second bend, in a sense where at the point where he might have switched wide, Agent Stanley just did drift wide and he decided in.
Yeah, but he didn't drift horrifically wide, Agent Stanley. Like at the first point at which the winner shows the intent to go up the inside, Agent Stanley isn't miles off the rail or anything. It's the way he cut the bend. It's the most remarkable thing. I didn't see it in him before, because most of the time when you see dogs cutting the bend, they do it because there's nothing inside them. That's what they do. This dog had 4. He had 4 greyhounds inside him and his inner, and he cut straight across them. And because of the angle he cut across it, this is remarkable. This is why 28:38 was actually a fabulous time considering how he did it. I mean, to take that angle from where he was at the bend, I don't know. I can't explain it. I think 99 out of 100 times the dog doesn't get round the bend properly.
Yeah.
It's a nice, and it's nice for connections. We haven't even mentioned connections yet for
yeah.
Mark O'Donovan and the owners. It's terrific because he is a dog that they're going to look forward to for the rest of the year. But with 80,000 in the pocket's not a bad start.
Yeah, certainly not. Mark O'Donovan and Michael O'Dwyer. Their combined ages are less than mine, and I'm not old, like by any stretch of imagination.
Well,
that says a lot for you,
denial.
Tommy. I know.
Denial.
Just when we're speaking about ages, seen a Twitter post yesterday about how young the handlers were in the final.
Yeah, Aoife Dunphy posted that.
Dunphy,
yeah,
and there was a suggestion in there that Skip Gilbert was 42.
I asked her if Skippy had put her up to that now, to be brutally honest. In fairness, I don't think Skippy would mind me saying he's not even a decade older than that. He's a couple, maybe more. But
he's closer to being born in 1942 than he is actually 42.
In fairness to him, he looks exactly like he did when I was working in Harold's Cross 20 years ago. He hasn't changed a bit. Fairness to him.
I'd say his face off the second bend was changing. Going back the machine, as Barry said, on the corner, you think to yourself, all he has to do is keep that straight line, get around, and he wins. He just, as they close in on him, he checks off slightly, turns sideways for that moment, and it costs him those 2, maybe even 3 lengths. That was the difference between him winning and losing.
Yeah, I think he ran an absolute blinder. Watched it back a couple of times. I actually didn't think he got second. When I first seen the race, I had to watch it back a couple of times to realise he did finish second. But he must have been seven, maybe 8 lengths off them at the sprint box, and to do that sort of a run against them, like the 2 dogs are up top. They're no slouches, and to give them maybe a 6-7 length lead and almost pick them up, that way. It was some run. It really was, and he was very unlucky not to slip around in second place. Really was. Agent Stanley's gone. He's lane 1 and lane 2, and the others weren't really bearing in on him. It was just a gradual thing, and I think maybe with 6 coming across at the first bend, it just a sort of a concertina effect, and that was the end for him really. But yeah, look, to finish only a length and a half behind him, it was some run, and I'm sure he's toaster bound now. So
I would assume so. Tommy, he's a dog. We've said it in the previous weeks. He's probably 27-80 pace from the second bend. They're going to have some sport with him. Keep him out of the frame in these major competitions is going to be very, very hard to do.
He was about 8 lengths clear into the escape as well. The pace he showed down the back is the kind of pace he showed earlier on when he chased down Explosive Boy, that type of pace. But where I think actually he might have lost the race was between the last 2 bends. If you watch him, the momentum he has is ridiculous. But he sees the 2 dogs in front of him, and he's not sure whether to go inside because one of them slightly off the rails, one on the rails, not sure whether to go inside or outside, and just momentarily kind of checks and makes the decision to go outside. And even that cost him momentum. He's after coming from what Barry said, or you were talking about, where he got kind of turned sideways. He's after picking up from that loss of momentum and then getting a little bit. And at the end of the, I thought watching it live that he was quite well beaten, if you know what I mean. I thought he was quite well beaten. But the more I watched the race, it's only a couple of strides after the line he's on top of the winner. He's basically, and he's gone by into the escape to go miles clear. I mean, 550 is going to suit him. Just that he needs to be able to position himself early. He needs to be able to position himself well. And just because you're stepping up from 525 to 550 doesn't mean it gets any easier. The dogs actually, it's a curious distance because the dogs don't tend over 575 and 600 is a real long run up. The dogs tend to, set themselves into their positions quite well. But over 550, you have an awful lot of dogs who just don't have the 525 early pace to the first section, we'll say. But by the bend, they're beginning to close. So over 550, you get more dogs in together around the opening bend, I find, at the very top level because it's so close. It's so close to the competition is. So I think he needs to be able to position himself well to be able to take advantage. It will be tougher. It's curious because he is a strong stayer, but 550 will be tougher. To kind of do what he's doing there, come from behind. But I think he was a shade unlucky because not just the first bend, but at the fourth bend, I think it's key. He's showing that much pace. It's incredible. The way he tracked the bends is almost ridiculous.
His style of racing will often suggest that he will need a little bit of luck in running. But if you actually take it out of the front 3 the other night, he was the only one that actually lost ground. Stonepark Leo threw away ground on the traps, but that's his own doing. But he actually lost ground, as you say, on the first and between the last 2 bends. And it probably cost him a total maybe 3.5, 4 lengths if you put it all together. 4 lengths season win by 2.5. That sort of way. I know it's not quite, it's a bit more arbitrary than that, but the fact of the matter was he's lost more ground than he was beaten. Toaster is probably in fact, I imagine it's definitely his next target. He has been around. That's going to stand to him, Barry. What sort of price are we looking at? He's about a 33-1 chance, but I suppose the reason he's only 33-1 is because that each way money, especially if the 6 places, I could see he'd be popular.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to keep on qualifying, but it's funny. I just looked back at his 2 races today that he had in Toaster, and he's actually went to the bend quite well over there. He ran out trap 1 twice, and on both occasions, the first time he went to the bend second, and his race comments are early pace. That was his race comment, and he came out well and showed a little bit of early into the bend. He wasn't disgraced, so he did go down second. Then in the final, again, he trapped well from 1, so he's not really going to be detached. That way he seems to run that place fairly okay. So.
Well, if you actually look back on Saturday night, the race we're just talking about, he's disputing second into the corner until Stone Park cuts the corner. He's disputing second. Okay, granted, 2, 3, and 4, or 3, 4, and 5 are probably rubbing. They're not getting away from him. But Agent Stanley wasn't exactly 5 clear of him on the bend.
No, he wasn't. He was no more than 2 clear of him at the bend, and he took a flyer really from Traps Agent Stanley. So. Yeah, look, if he keeps getting his draw in Toaster, he finishes really, really well. Like the trip will suit him down to the ground. It's a big galloping track. It'll probably suit him more than Limerick. So yeah, like he definitely looks like one who's going to keep on qualifying. Even if like dogs have a tendency to miss the break in Toaster, there may be issues with the traps over there. Some people aren't too happy with him, but you can see him still qualifying if he does miss it. That way you can slip in behind and definitely take second or third. So yeah, 33-1. If he can get to 6 places, he definitely looks like he's going to be a major player.
Yeah, we might try and find a bit of 40s. You never know.
But just on the competition, sorry, Ian, it just shows how great of a competition it was if somebody says to you, if you were to take a dog home from the competition, I'm sure there'd be much debate about that. Like, would you take Explosive Boy? Would you take the Machine? Would you take the winner? The way they were all brilliant finalists, really. Who would you take?
Do you know what? I'd be tempted to take Romeo Magico from the early rounds. I think he's a hell of a good dog. I just wouldn't be surprised if he turned into a proper one. 550 run up and all that. Tommy's scoffing away down there, huh? Tommy's going to add another one to his list now. I can tell his list now. In fairness, you want to stay off that list. There's some really good names in that bloody list. I'll tell you that. Tommy, what would you take out of it?
I don't know what to take out of it, to be honest, but I have to go back through the whole lot again. Saw a couple of them running the weekend in Shelburne too. That have been in the competition. I just the more I look at that race, I'm not entirely certain about the 550 for Stone Park Leo. Maybe it will. I mean, as you say, maybe it doesn't take an awful lot of extra getting. It depends on what competition. I was going to say I mentioned already Agent Stanley and Explosive Boy for the likes of the I don't know whether they're going there, but for the Bar 1 sprint. But I think we saw a sprint winner the other night. In Limerick, that Two Amigos, and we shouldn't be talking about this because it's not the Kirby, but Two Amigos was sensational, and I don't know, was it 5th or 7th run or something?
Yeah,
and it's damn one of the Uber jokes. She won the Fair Warrior Constellation. She went 3 rounds in the Irish Sprint Cup. This lad showed something a bit special. I know the favourite Galti Extra missed a kick and got a little bit of trouble and all that, but like, he's had so few runs and he wants 400. He doesn't want 350. He wants 400.
Don't worry, we'll definitely touch upon the sporting card though in a minute. There's a few I want to mention, including Two Amigos, as you said. We're just going to we're going to put a finish on the Kirby now in a few moments. In terms of the front 3 in the final of the Kirby, there's nothing their handlers could have done anymore. Their dogs produced just as best a run they could possibly produce in circumstances. Agent Stanley, like Des and Mary, can be absolutely proud of their performer. He ran his heart out, and Pat Flanagan, Erwin Burkbar, they'll have loads of sport with this fellow because he is a professional. As you say, Tommy, they can put him back over 2 bends, they can run him in 4 bends, and why not rock up to the likes of the Sprint Cup or to Dundee or to Cork later in the year? These are the things that, and even we saw the likes of Select Stakes this year. Who's to say he couldn't be in the likes of Select Stakes next year? He's a perfect sort of 5.25 yard dog you can go to war with because he's professional at boxes and he'll run his heart out every night. The Machine in second spot, like the ground. We've spoken about the ground he's lost. He's run just a remarkable race again. You'd expect that from Brendan Matthews in the big night, that the dog was primed. He ran his heart out, and as you say, clear to the escape. I'm sure he'll have a payday. There's no question about that. It's hard to believe he's only had the 1 win. Very hard to believe he's only had the 1 win, considering the pace he does have. And then Stone Park Leo. I don't know where he'll end up, and I don't know how good he'll be. All I know is that he has unbelievable potential. Like, if he trapped on terms the other night, we're probably talking about a 28-10 winner in a Kirby. and you're doing 28-10 around Limerick in April. I'm fairly sure you can do 29-40 around Shelburne Park in September. That's the way I see it, and I'm just not going to. I'm not going to do a Tommy Lyons in it and come out bald-headed and say I don't think he'll. You know what? This time last year. Sorry, bald. Sorry, lads. Oh, Sheeny Mac. Sorry, lads. Come here. I got a bit frazzled, but at least
I gotta go.
At least I got cover. You know.
That's happy.
Sorry about that. It was a bad choice of words, perhaps. Stone Park Leo. I am after losing my train of thought altogether.
I don't know what Freud would make you.
This time last year, we were talking about New Win Taylor. Do we think he'll stay 550 yards in Shelburne Park? Here we are a year later after seeing New Win Taylor win the Derby last year. Do you know what he reminded me of a bit? Now, I know he did cut in on the corner. He reminded he reminded me a bit of Law Hill Blake, who would have been trained by Mark's father, Michael, to win a Derby at this stage in his career, lightly raced, shown loads of ability and pace. And, I know Law Hill Blake didn't capture a Kirby or a Produce Stakes, but he'd always shown promise. But it was at Shelburne Park where he did take off. This fellow over a 550-yard run-up could be something special. And it is also worth pointing out that he ran as an inside seat in the opening round. I'm not convinced he will carry a wide in the future. Tommy, what do you think?
Not the way he ran the first bend. He won't. He'll be middle at worst. But just go to the point you made earlier on about connections and couldn't have done any more right in the first three. If none of the six could have. The only dog I'd be slightly disappointed with, and it's only because he'd been so good in the previous rounds, was Explosive Boy. Now he's always going to have that tendency to once every 3 or 4 runs slightly miss it, and that might mean he might slightly miss it.
Did you watch the coverage in Racing Post TV? Did you hear Pat Guilfoyle being interviewed by our own Rob Catterson? Pat was very worried about the draw, not in terms of 4 cutting in and 1 cutting out, but more that he hadn't been drawn in the middle, and he says it's not quite as easy to break from the middle in Limerick. Have you ever taken that angle? I've actually taken the angle with the likes of Sing Along Sally. I thought she'd break a bit better from the middle, but
she flew out, and Agent Stanley was good from the middle in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe and because he won from 6 and absolutely flew from 6 as well would suggest to me that he's adaptable in terms of traps. I'm not running this dog down, right? This is wrong. The only reason I say I was disappointed because he was so explosive, so good. Pardon the pun. He was so good in previous round. That's all. That's the only reason to be disappointed. Like Stone Park Leo ran his heart out. He ran a better race than that's the best race of his career. Now I know it's a short career, but like to do it from a 138 and have to do what he did at the first bend and then challenge and have all that. The machine went clear to the escape. We had doubts about that in the past. He went clear into the escape. He showed phenomenal pace. The matches could do no more. Agent Stanley was an absolute joy to watch because he ran his race. He's beaten 2 lengths, right? So he's finishing up doing 28, 53, 52, maybe. That's his run. That's his run, in my opinion. If something gets in front of him at a third bend like it did, that probably cost him a length. So he's still doing a 28. He might be at the moment limited, and I say limited in a not trying to be derogatory way.
If he holds Stone Park Leo to the third bend, he wins. I know the machine picks him up, but if he holds Stone Park Leo, he wins.
I think he does because he gets another length, maybe 10 spots out of him. That's all he probably needed, especially if you're considering that he'd hold up Stone Park Leo. Ballymac Merlin was positioned better than he had been positioned in a race of this nature, this competitive, than he could have been. So the Dowleys couldn't do any more than get him out of the boxes and hoped for a little bit of luck because he had a desperate draw. And Sing Along Sally, Pat Buckley got her to fly out. She just wasn't good enough on the day. She wanted it in. The draw wasn't ideal. If you're a handler, right, the best you can do is have the dog in good form and get it out of the boxes, or do your best to have it in such fresh and good form.
Prior to the race, we did suggest that she was probably the worst drawn dog of the race. She was the one.
She was because she desperately wanted inside, and Agent Stanley, which I thought would come out more than he did, he would definitely be in front of her and be coming across the track a little bit less than I thought as it happened. But yeah, she had a desperate draw. But they like you get your dogs. Barry will know more about than we do. You get your dogs in good form, and they'll maybe they're not natural breakers, whatever, but they'll do what they normally do. You have them there fresh. I think all the connections can be proud. What a thrill it must be to be involved in a race running for 80,000 to the winner too.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry, have you ever had a runner for 80 grand?
Not even 8,000, I don't think. I thought Skip was very honest in his interview on Racing Post TV before the race. he came out straight away and he said about Agent Stanley, he said he's limited. He said he's about 3 or 4 lengths off the top. And he said if this race is won in 28.40 or 28.50, he said he'll be thereabouts. And it was 28.38, probably just a little bit too quick for him. But yeah, Skip hit the nail on the head, and obviously he knows the dog more than we do, but he does seem to be just 3 or 4 lengths off the top class, you know. And then just touching on Explosive Boy, I interviewed Pat Guilfoyle after the semi-final when Explosive Boy had went from trap 1, trap 6, back to trap 1 again. And I asked him, was he worried about that? And he said, yeah, they were definitely worried about that during the week. And then to throw him again, so he's gone 1, 6, 1, 3. You know, that way it's dogs are listening for different noises when the hare's approaching traps. And look, it wasn't ideal to keep on shifting traps every so often from an inside, outside, inside to a middle, you know, that way. So look, I'm sure he'll have another day, and he might go down to Dundalk or so for the bar 1.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll continue to run very well for them. As Skip said, he may well be 2 or 3 lengths off the very, very best. Certainly come August and September time, you know, you can't see him really challenging for the likes of a Derby, but there's definitely a payday there. And yeah. Skip, in fairness to him, you know, and Pat, and I'm sure they'll sit down and go, let's plot a campaign for this lad, because there are competitions there to be won, and you know, if they mind him, they'll pick up something along the way. Barry, you never told us what dog you take out of the stake, by the way. When you ask the question, you have to be ready to answer, to give an answer.
But I've thought about it like a competition dog, the machine, possibly the way he finishes, he's going to keep on qualifying. But yeah, I take Explosive Boy. Like, you just think back some of his runs, it's 28.08, and I think, and he's obviously doing 28.08. They stay 5.25 well, and he has the sprinter space as well. Like, you can go to Dundalk with him for the bar 1. You can go for, you know. Will he get the Derby trip? I'm not so sure. He's strong enough in front. He really is strong in front. And the longer, like, look at Grangeview 10, and Pat Guilfoyle have him as well. You know that way.
Yeah.
He wasn't a natural stayer, but he looked good in the Derby for a while, didn't he? So yeah, I take Explosive Boy. But I want to be partnered with 5 or 6 figures.
It's a good comparison, because it's funny enough. With the pace that he has, I think Explosive Boy could win heats of the Derby. He won't win a Derby, but he could win heats of the Derby, definitely.
Yeah.
Just Barry, you're new here, right? You don't ask any questions. He
tends to avoid answering.
He doesn't like to be put on the spot. He'd put you on the spot. Don't worry about that. Don't ask back.
That's my job. That's my job. We'll go through the card. We'll go through the card quickly at Limerick on Saturday night. Azabi, you know, she was returned 2-9. It was probably the right price. I think that's what they call a Rick by the grader. Moving on to the second, Ballinakiljet won the sprint well, 7-4. But then we kicked into the real performances. Owen Spice was pretty terrific. Always known he's a very fast greyhound, especially on the back and home. And once he turned close, he was always going to win 28-24. And we'd get Nutty Gem won in 28-77. The one that, Tommy, you were mentioning earlier on, Two Amigos. We all heard the story, Jamie McGee saying after the race that this was the dog that had a fit in front of them. He had basically died, and they brought him back to life. I assume his kennel name must be Lazarus or something along those lines. But he's quickly developing a good card. Thankfully, he's showing no ill effects. And 18.43 the other night, it was a serious run. You know, I know, Tommy, you said the favourite missed the kick. I'm not sure the favourite was capable of doing 18.43.
Yeah, it's only a leg off the track record.
I think this is a really, really talented young sprinter. He's November 18, like he's 2.5, but sure, he's perfect age going into the Irish Sprint Cup. He's definitely one you'd keep an eye on.
Oh, it took my eye out because I love the way he's, not only that he went to the bend, but the way he strode out as well in the closing stages. He wants 400. 350 is even too sharp. I wouldn't like to see him down in Cork for, you know, over 330 or whatever. You wouldn't, you know, I think that would all be far too sharp for him. But he is a big striding dog. I think the long straight in Dundalk would suit ideally. As we said a while ago, his dam has had plenty of good sprinting form, and I think he could be a serious sprinter. Really do.
They're obviously thinking that way, because they did bring him to Dundalk. Yeah. He won at 21.37. Just looking at the run the other night, he'll certainly do a lot faster than 21.37 around Dundalk.
Oh, the run the other night is a close to 21 second run in Dundalk.
Barry, it was very taking.
Yeah, he was brilliant, and like, to be honest, I didn't realise it was only his 5th race. It was only when I look back at it after the race, it was amazing, and to listen to the story and come back from the dead. But yeah, that's as lads say, a length off the clock, fabulous run. He's only had 2 5.25.
2
5.31 he won in. So as Tommy said, he wasn't stopping. I know you don't usually stop in the sprint, but he did stride out well. So it'd be interesting to see maybe if if he will go back over 4 bends eventually.
He was picked up one night over 5.25 and 29.40, which suggests maybe he is short. Now, obviously, that was last September, so he could well have strengthened up by then. But looking at them the other night, if he was mine, I think I'd be just trying to mop up those 2 bend sprints. You know, when you think about the sprinting game at the moment, and I do have another sprinter I want to throw at you in a moment. You know, if you take Brody's Magic out of it, there's room there for something to come out of the clouds and grab it by the scruff of the neck. Like Brody's Magic he's a 17 whelp, late 17 whelp, and by all accounts he's running as well as he ever did. 18:41 in Shelburne Park last week. There was another dog. It's worth looking at. I didn't say it to you beforehand. You probably haven't seen it. A dog ran in Thurles on Saturday night called Deadly Big Show. I think it could be wrong now. Deadly Big Show, I think it's called, and trained by a certain Mark O'Donovan. He did a 17:57 around Thurles. It was a hell of a run. If you look at his card, he's very likely race. He's only had the 3 starts, and he is like he's a mid 2018 whelp. So
September,
yeah. But just if you, I urge you to look back at those 2 or 3 races. He did 15:90 in Clonmel, which hasn't been done in a long time. And then the other night in Thurles, he just destroyed them. I think he could be a hell of a sprinter. Just seems to be that time of year where a few sprinters are coming out. You know, Dundalk mightn't just be the stroll for Brody's Magic that some would be expecting. There's 2 or 3 really good sprinters knocking around. Even that Ballinakil Jet that won the other night in Limerick, probably not the most consistent at boxes, but I think that's his game. He doesn't get the 4 bends. I think that's his game. And I think if you give these dogs a chance to run over the sprint trip more and more, they do tend to sharpen up. It's one of those disciplines where you can't just turn straight into a great sprinter. You need a run at it. And I just think there's a few nice sprinters about.
I was just thinking before this weekend, Brody's Magic, he was out there on his own. There wasn't an awful lot of sprinters. Like he'd be going for those one-off races in Shelburne Park, going off 1 to 2, 1 to 3, which is unheard of for the big sprints in Shelburne, especially the one-off ones. But this weekend we've seen a couple of ones that can put it up to him. So hopefully the Peggy Kelly is coming up short. I think that's the end of May maybe, and then we'll have the Bar 1. So hopefully we get a good entry for that, and the picture will be a little bit clearer then.
The Island Bridge sprint, Barry.
Yeah. We won it before. That was going back a while ago. But,
what was that one?
That was Malouda.
Malouda, I remember.
2010, 2011.
We never mentioned you're a Spurs fan, of course. There was a cup final yesterday, Barry. How did that go?
So I'm bald. I'm a Spurs fan. It's not great. I was just like looking forward to it for the last couple of weeks, really were. And then it's just painful to watch. Manchester City are so good. Just touching on it for a second, like you look at their team, you look at Phil Foden. Where does Phil Foden play? Is he a midfielder? Is he a striker? Is he a winger? Like, it must be impossible.
There's a touch of the beach avenues about him, all right. You can put him wherever you want over any trip. So all right, Tom.
It's hard to like the team is fabulous. So.
Yeah, Tommy used to be a Man United supporter. Now he's a Liverpool supporter. I'm saying nothing. Tommy, what else do we touch on Saturday night? There was a really good staying performance by I Am's a Dream. I like her. I think she's going to need to trap it like that most nights because tactical speed in that first lap, she had enough to hold off some really talented ones in behind her. She was helped by both Ballymac Wisdom and Sporting Pat checking around the fourth bend or between the third and fourth bends, but she did 41.77. She runs right to the line. She's a really nice stayer for Robert Gleeson. I have no doubt she'll be heading across the pond at some stage.
Yeah, she's a good stayer, but like the story of the race was early. Ballymac Wisdom had the race won, didn't know where it was positioned and the whole lot. So yeah, she looked there was a nice bit of money actually on the winner. It was well back just before the off, I think.
Yeah, she's owned by a few men now that can put it down, you know.
Yeah, well, in fairness to them, they picked it up the other night too because she made all. Maybe a little bit lucky, but you'll need that along the way. Just going back to, I can't believe like Barry's on here. He might get invited back. He's dissing Brody's Magic now. Come on.
I know. I
don't think he is, Tommy. I think you're hearing things.
You give it out about him being old. You're me bald, him old. For me, for God's sake, come on. This is all a bit harsh.
What can I say? You know, those glass houses and all, but
this has gone down a direction I didn't expect it to now this week.
Barry, I Am's a Dream. You like a good stare, and she is a good one.
Yeah, she was very good the other night. My pictures actually broke up when I was watching it on the laptop because the missus had control of the TV, and I thought Ballymac Wisdom was going to pick her up heading into the second bend for the first time, if you know what I mean. sprint boxes. And when my pictures come back, she was on 3 or 4 clear. So look, she's a top class bitch. I think she's 41.20 around Shelbourne for the 750.
Yeah, she's
maybe if she stays here, the
41,
Conquer Hullins in July, so maybe that could
I'd
be
assume that's what they're planning, run her in that, and then probably take her across
Yeah.
the water and see if she can mop up the staying divisions over there. The 7th race in the card at Limerick tonight was won by Tally Ho Hope. This was a strange contest. You expected it to flash out, make all. There was all sorts of, not shenanigans, but she missed the kick. There was trouble in the corner. She swept around the outside and found herself in front of the second bend. If you were on the favourite, you were trying to get rid of your money in the first 100 yards, but then all of a sudden it was like, wow, this is going to win. Navy Blue was a big price. Like they alluded to the other night, it's not often you see Graham Holland who won at 14-1 in a final like this. Navy Blue, it had shown plenty of promise in previous starts, owned by a syndicate of, I've called them in the past, movers and shakers in the greyhound industry. I know Damien Lonigan's involved, and Shane Dowling, Sharian O'Donnell, and a few mesters. And there was actually a voice message going around from Damien Lonigan singing a song about Navy Blue, and we might try and uncover that in a week or two and put it up on social media. Navy Blue, a good winner though, really nice strong running dog. If he does get his trapping right, he'll win plenty of races. 28-38 the other night, Tommy, same time as the Kirby winner.
Yeah, look, he's related to Slippy Keane and Lenson Blinder and that sort of Arnie Healy and all those kind of really fast.
Year, of course. Yeah,
really fast greyhounds. So it's not a surprise that it can do that. 14-1 as a return, but in fairness, once it turned close enough, like it always looked like it was going to be strong enough to pick up Deadly Tornado. So
yeah, well, it did look a million to lead Jacob Tashadlek, but he missed it. That was the result. Then trapped slipped in second, and it was always going to be too strong. I'm happy to admit that I had a few quid on a 28 in the machine. Barry, Navy Blue, were you giving it a chance yourself?
Yeah, look, he hasn't had much luck down there in that competition, and that was a personal best there last night. 123, I think he done, so he really bombed out. Yeah, look, he obviously has ability. Deadly Tornado, I thought he ran well. He's shown huge early pace down there, and I think he could be another one for Dundalk. Like to see him over a sprint trip. Like, not that he doesn't stay 5-2-5, he 28-50 the other night, but I think we might see better from him over 2 bends, in the likes of Dundalk, or maybe the Peggy Kelly, the Island Bridge.
Yeah. The toolmaker Josias Stud A1 bitch went to Cunningar Spice. You'd know a bit about that, Tommy. That's your direction, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Ran well too, just railed really, really well for Aoife O'Keefe. It was game performance, had been in good form in Yaw. That was completing a hat trick. So just a good bitch, actually from a very good litter. Boom time litter, some of them have been sold, I'm pretty sure, for decent money. And
she won up the Oaks herself, Boom time, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. For Johnny Linehan, I think.
The 11th race in the card, another fine performance by a bitch, and by some way considerably faster than Cunningar Spice. Scooby Princess, this was up there, Tommy, with a near career best display by her. Jennifer O'Donnell had said that she probably needed to run a little bit, but she was happy with the trial, and I'd say she was absolutely delighted with her performance. 28-24. Barry, it was pretty breathtaking from Scooby Princess.
Yeah, that was only her second run of the year as well, Ian. That went, and to do a run like that, 28-24, like, she's classy enough. I think she's 28-12 in Shelbourne for 525, and if I'm not mistaken, she's 28-40 coming from behind in the 550 there last year. So she's definitely, I'd say the Oaks is her main target for this year, but it was a very impressive performance. 121 from the boxes. Yeah, it is. And if Jennifer said she might need to run, we could be all in trouble,
Yeah. Tommy, we've said it so many times, there are a special crop of bitches around at present, and Scooby Princess is one that has to be mentioned. Like, she ran in top company last year, boys and girls, 550, 525, even she'd stay a bit further. I'd say it was a hell of a run. The Oaks, it might be a bit sharp for her.
She feels like she's been around forever, and she's not. She's only 3. Like, a bit of a curiosity on the old clocks, the 121s, and that being done outside of the Kirby. Like, they weren't done in the entire Kirby, I don't think, were they? No. Which was weird, because when you see what Explosive Boy did in some rounds, and Agent Stanley did in some rounds, and yet in a couple of races last night, there was 2 dogs. Navy Blues that was second to the line first time doing 123, I think 121 or 122, the deadly dog, and Scooby Princess did a 120 something, 121 was it? Bit of a curiosity, but that's all. But and only barely led early. So I mean, there was a whisker in it again, but maybe it was a Clonus Guy who turned second. So yeah, I'm going to have to reserve my judgment on what I make of the track in general, but I don't understand it fully yet. But maybe for next year.
Maybe for next year, Tom. You have 12 months. Well, we'll be talking about the Ledger before then, hopefully. Loxley won the final race there at Limerick as well, and ran well to land the spoils. Just switching our attentions briefly to Shelburne Park on Saturday night. The Shelburne Puppy Oaks, Front of Manny 28.53 and Susie Sapphire 28.47. Two different displays. Front of Manny is a bitch with a massive engine. She'll definitely be one that will contest the Oaks itself after this Puppy Oaks. She's a big player in the Puppy Oaks, of course. She's probably a little shy in the early part of the race, but she has some pace, Tommy. That's obviously, the 28.11 on her card suggests that.
Yeah, what did she do early the other day? Was it 2:06? No,
she was relatively prominent, but she sort of tends to lose her place around the opening two bends.
I just thought the funny thing about Shelburne.
She did 2:23. Didn't
oh,
she
sorry,
she
was
only fifth into the back straight. Yeah,
it was the other semi-final winner that did 2:06. Sorry, yeah. No, she picked her way through. Actually, do you know what? When she showed the pace to move from fifth, she was fourth early, moved back to fifth at the second bend, then showed lovely pace down the back, and then got kind of held up on the bend and had to quicken a second time or whatever, a third time maybe even in the race to win. So nice game performance. Yeah, lots to like about it.
You like her, Barry?
Yeah, I do like her. She's got massive pace, and I know Robert likes her as well, Robert Leeson, but there's just too many 220 sectionals in there, I think she might have done a 210 in the first round, and she showed a bit of early that night as well. Like obviously,
then she got lost in the bend, of course.
She got lost in the bend, yeah. But she's a huge engine, that way. But yeah, like her trapping isn't really improving. She's probably has 10 or 11 runs at this stage now, maybe more, but still consistently in around the 220s, that way.
She's going to be hard to keep out of the frame, let's say, in the Oaks. Kilpipe Blue was second. Rock Glen Swift is a very likely race type for Peter Cronin. She's a nice sort. She's good pace in the back. She stays well. Moving on to the second heat, Susie Sapphire is taking giant strides forward. She was electric from boxes the other night. Her splits have got better as she's had more races. She's very well bred. Drubichet out of Jetstream Links, who herself was very talented, but she was a bit of a stayer. Whereas this lady looks all about early speed. Tommy, you said 2:06. Her last three runs were 2:24, 2:11, 2:06. At this rate of trajectory, she'll be doing 2 seconds next week, and not too many would lead that. But she's a really nice type, this one.
I think 2:06 is about as good as you can do at the moment. It's funny, like sometimes you go through periods there where dogs can break into the mid 190s kind of. I think we have seen a 188.
I think they adjusted a trip in Shelburne Park a while back, and when we were going, back in the early days with the likes of Clover Hares and them doing 188s and 190s, that's 2 seconds now.
But much more recently than that, you could break 2 seconds, and dogs were doing it, but they don't seem to be. I in the last month or so, maybe more, I would have thought that if the dogs doing 2:10, 2:12, they were going fast early, which in the past you would have said, God, you might get yourself in a little bit of trouble doing that. Yeah. But so things have adjusted slightly, but she's improved in that department, and it was pretty much a flawless display, wasn't it?
It was. Barry, she really is on an upward curve. This lady's getting better every time she goes to track.
Yeah, definitely, and she's got great early pace, and like if you look in around that competition, there's not an awful lot of early pace in it, really. And if she keeps on coming away the way she is, she's going to be hard to beat. I'd like to mention Cooladary Wings as well. I think she ran in your father's race in Enniscorthy.
Yeah,
I think in the final of that race,
she's absolutely flying off.
But in the final of your dad's race in Enniscorthy, she flew out that night and almost made the bend, and she just met trouble, and her chance was gone. But like she was detached at the first bend there last night or on Saturday night, absolutely left. And she was only, I know the winner still better by 6 lengths, but she was only 2.5 lengths off Miss Joss, who was no slouch at all, and she must have been 10 lengths off her. So she's one that's going to qualify, and Miss Clover, sorry.
Yeah.
She's one that's going to qualify with her style of running, and there's a break in her as well, as she proved in Enniscorthy. So she could just flash in boxes one night.
I do like her, I must say. I don't know what her triple be. She'll definitely want further in time, no question about that. There were some good performances on the undercard. Track is going well at Shelburne Park again. Dark Devil did a 28.37. He didn't lead. He took off down the back straight. Witches Ethiopia won well, Tommy, down your direction. New in session. Listen, we know exactly how good he is. 29.31, Tommy, and it looked like it was very, how would you describe it? It was, just nothing flashy. It was a case of just, I'm out here flexing my muscles, doing 29.31. I could probably go faster. I'm a hell of a fast greyhound, and this is me doing what I do. Unfortunately, he throws in the odd one in those competitions, but there's no question on his night he's exceptionally quick.
Yeah, look, the reaction was there was a bit of a push around to back him for the English Derby. 33s now. It wasn't a huge move. He's into 25s. He might even get one place where he might be able to get 33 to 1. But like I don't think we learned anything more than we already knew. He do 29.
Do you not think we're learning a bit about him? I think I'm getting to know him a bit more than I used to. I think he's more actually early. I think he's more early pace, is what I'm saying, than we always believed. I think he's probably a sharper greyhound than he was. I don't think he'll stay any further than 550. Like, this is a dog they ran over 600 yards. I think 550 is his trip. I really do.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But like, he did a 340 the other night, which is not going to lead in top class company. Like, you know what I mean? It's not going to lead in Derby company.
So it would have led you in a number of Derby finals, I'd say, if you look back over the years.
If you got there, you've yeah, he's you know where I'm going.
Taking no prisoners today, Lyons.
You know where I'm going. I'm not being smart to you, but what I mean is he's got to do it every night to get to the final of the Derby. I'm not trying to cut you in. That would be wrong. What I'm saying is he's a dog that we've seen plenty of at the moment, and to my mind, I've never doubted his ability. I backed it for the English Derby last year, for God's sake.
Consistency is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And if he could get that consistency, and we thought he had it for a while, and then he got beaten.
Yeah.
So I fear that he'd do the same to me again. I can't trust him with my money anymore.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we know, Barry, is that Tommy is consistent. Barry, you in session discuss.
Yeah, look, he is prone to throw in the odd below par performance. So maybe as a competition dog, it's, you know, he needs 6 or 7 good runs in a row. However, like, I disagree with Tommy. Sorry, Tommy, but like, I think 340, 29-31, that's good enough to win an actual Derby on Derby final night. You know, it's decent run. I'd be interested to see if he goes over to England. He went over last year. I think he got knocked out in the first round, but at his age now, I'd say, yeah, sure, I think they might take in Toaster. That trip could suit him as well, like, you know what I mean?
But they're going anyway, so you'd imagine if a dog as good as you in session, exactly. You bring him. Yeah. He's English owned, so like, I'm sure Simon would love to try and complete a Derby double. You know, after winning the Irish Derby with Taylor, he'd love to win in England with Session, I'm sure. And the final race in the card is Ballymac captain from my old pal George Roach. This fellow has come on leaps and bounds. He has brilliant early speed. He was electric the other night. Doolan Duke, I thought he lost nothing in defeat after a slow start. He's beaten 3.5 in 28-23. He's just coming to a simmer. I assume everything is just pointing towards Toaster for him. But Ballymac captain, really nice dog, Tommy.
Is this the same George Roach that in days gone by used to have all the dogs running in Harold's Cross? Yeah.
Yep. George,
very, very good.
Down in Enniscorthy, yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. Back to my old days when I was used to write for the weekly. Ballymac captain, there was good performance. Doolan Duke was obviously a little bit of lucky. Things just never went from throughout the race, and still showed tremendous ability, in fairness, which he has. Chasing Belfast Community Reserve, had every chance in the race. Ballymac captain, that's a fair run, 28-23, but Doolan Duke was obviously is going to step forward from this, and I assume he's just going to Toaster, is he?
I assume so. He won the Consolation Derby last year, so
yeah. I mean, different tracking. You should have your opinion on Toaster now.
Yeah, I think you want to be on the inside and you want to be in front. Right. The traps are an issue, as Barry said, but they have committed to changing the traps. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. It's not ideal. I think they're talking about having them in place for, I think it's the 12th of May. So by then, like, they had trial stakes the other night. You'll have trial stakes already done, and traps have changed then before the Derby. But I think everyone's agreement that they had to do something, because the traps at the moment were just, you know, it was like they were made from tinfoil. They were moving that much, you know, they just look so light and flimsy, and that's why you got dogs charging and missing it and stumbling out. And no, it's great that they're making the move. Speaking of the English Derby, we better look back at last Tuesday, the Select Stakes. Tommy, Skywalker, Barry, another big win for young Mark O'Donovan. He's made some start to his training career. He's a really, really talented greyhound, this Skywalker Barry. He's a dog that, even though he won the Juvenile Derby, we still probably overlook him when we put the conversation up about the very best dogs in training, and he's right up there. You know, he beat some real stars the other night in a fantastic Select Stakes final. He has electric early when he hits the lids, and he does tend to drift off that final turn, but once he straightens up, he gets going again to the line. A lot to like about him. I don't know what he'll go for this year, but I assume they'll be attempting the 550. Who knows? They might go to Toaster. That decision has yet to be made. Tommy, what would you be doing with him?
That's a tricky question. He has terrific early pace. I don't know why we underrated him, and I think it's a fair comment that you made that we kind of did a little bit. You know,
it's not that we underrated him, but it's just he doesn't get the mention that probably he deserves.
Yeah, he has serious ability. That was a good race. Now, I don't think many of the dogs that were in the final were entirely suited to Waterford, which is like Kilcohan Park, the very sharp 5.25, and you really need to get everything right early. I think that's what might have been the undoing of Dearjet Sydney, and Native Maestro maybe, and they all ran superb races. So you know, in defeat. But Skywalker Barry had electric early pace, and he's entitled to be improving. He got a bit of tumble earlier in the year, didn't he? Or did he
March,
pulled up and he's had very little racing. Maybe we're very fickle and we tend to forget very quickly, but he's had very little racing since he won the Juvenile Derby. And
that's some strike rate all the same.
Yeah. But no, he's a dog of immense ability. Does he get 5.25 even? Would he get 5.25? Is when they drift off at the last bend, is it a sign that they're just coming to the end of the tether in terms of the trip they're getting? I
think it's just one of those things he does. I remember Clover Hare used to do it as well. You know, even though he was an inside seed, he used to drift off the final turn, and it's just one of those things. That's the second Clover Hare mention we've got in tonight, which is funny. A dog that was 15 years ago probably, but that's just one of those things he does. But as you said, or as I said, he gets going again once he straightens up.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's in that bracket, like the Stone Park Leo dog, that 550 in Shelburne Park mightn't be beyond him. You know,
what do you think you need for Toaster in terms of trip and what's the best way? What's the absolute ideal type dog? I know you said you want to be the inside, you want to be in front, but what does it demand?
Basically, it demands you be a Knockable Sid or a Dearjet Sydney or a Native Maestro, that type of dog. A dog that has the early speed to live with probably 5.25 yard greyhounds, but will keep going right to 550 yards. But you need to have early. You need to be in the inside. That's the way I'd see it. Dogs will win from the outside, have no doubt. But they'll probably need a length or two in hand on their rivals to do so.
Okay,
Barry, the Select Stakes. What were your thoughts?
I've no doubt that Skywalker Barry will get 550. The camera angle was a little bit deceptive the other night. He did drift off the last bend, but when they straightened up, if that race had been further finish line, if that was over 550 or 575, I still don't think they were getting to him. Like, it did drift off, and it did look as though Native Maestro and Dearjet Sydney were close on
575, you're pushing it.
No, but I'm not saying it in a 575, but if the finish line was another 50 yards on the other night, I still think he would have held on. Definitely do still he would have held on. It was just a camera angle, but yeah, he's a great dog. Like, he's got great early pace, and they are going to go to Toaster. I seen an interview. The chap's name escapes me. I think he's Ray Patterson, sort of racing manager.
Brendan O'Neill.
Brendan O'Neill. That's the chap. Yeah, and he said they're planning on going to Toaster. So
he said that. He did say that in the interview. But I spoke to him the next day, and he said, "By the way," he says, "that decision hasn't been made." Now, given the fact that they have Stone Park Leo as well, who knows? You know, it's one thing traveling with one dog, but if you have two or three, it might just push them to go, well, sure, listen, why not have a go? Do you know what I mean? Because there's not an awful lot around for those dogs until the Champions Stakes.
If you had to pick between Stone Park Leo and Skywalker Barry for the English Derby, who would you pick?
Skywalker Barry.
Yeah, probably Skywalker Barry, but I'll tell you what, there mightn't be an awful lot in it. I'd like to see Stone Park Leo running from the inside again, just to see. Because I think if you're bringing them to Toaster, there is absolutely no way in hell you're putting the middle or a wide in them. I think you have to try him again from the inside. Now, we saw what he did in the opening round of Kirby. He drifted straight off from trap one, but that was after missing the kick, and he's behind a wall of dogs, and some dogs would do that. You know, look to go around the outside rather than the inside, but we saw what he did in the final, and that wasn't the maneuver of a wide seed. You know what I mean? It was the maneuver of an inside seed running from the wide.
What way is the seeding pool over in Toaster? Shelburne Park is very heavily.
It'll be very heavily weighted towards insides, but there will be a seeding panel. So if you do something in the opening round, they'll have no problem in changing your seat. They won't give you much option. You'll be told you're going as a middle or a wide next week. They may even do it after trials, believe it or not. Now, they might give the Irish the benefit of doubt for one trial, but in the second trial, if you do something, I'd say they'll step straight in and go middle or wide. And perhaps that's the way to be. Certainly at a track like Toaster, where if you have a dog on the inside that favours the middle or the wide, you want to avoid bad traffic and for welfare issues and whatnot. But yeah, listen, it's an English derby worth looking forward to. We've got some real firepower going over, and hopefully we'll be landing the spoils. Lots to look forward to in the coming weeks, lads. We won't be here next Monday. It's a bank holiday, and it's actually a relatively quiet weekend next. We will be doing Talking Dogs TV, of course, on Saturday night, led by a young fella from Swords called Barry Caul. He'll be taking up the mantle. I'll be returning to my box. I'll be certainly not open chested like Robert has been over the last few weeks with the camera there and windows open. I'll be jacketed. Have no fear of that. I'm obviously a bit softer than Robert, who's a bit of a hardy look to him. But you're looking forward to it, Barry?
Yeah. I'm a little bit of nerves involved as well. But look, once I get in trouble, I'll just be thrown to you straight away. Over to Ian. But looking forward to it. It should be good fun. So yeah, I can't wait to.
If there's not a dog from the next litter call over to Ian, I'd be surprised. All right. Tommy, some good racing to look forward to. We didn't even touch upon the likes of the sprint on Saturday night. A good result for your part of the world?
Yeah, it was actually. I say there were a number of dogs in that. I think that weren't particularly, real sharp sprinters. So I thought it was quite a tricky competition to kind of figure out. But yeah, it was good. I say one thing we touched on here throughout the hour, we talked about dogs that maybe trying the sprint trip maybe for the first time, dogs that look like they're going to be suited by it. Zoom, I thought, was maybe a case in point that it's not exactly the ideal kind of. It's not that it doesn't fit straight. You need a little bit of time, so it's nice to see that nice to see the dogs get a go over before they go maybe to the competition. Dusty's Bandit is a good dog. Philip Rhodes is he Ballincollig? I think he's Ballincollig, only up the road. A real game performance. Now you had Miller Road Night in good early paces. I fancied actually a dog who actually he finished midfield, but Ardrahan Pinocchio. He's still seeking maiden success. But by God, if you ever see a dog that's been tried in the top company and things just haven't fallen for him, has loads and loads of ability. Someday he's going to get it. I thought maybe it was that type of final.
Did he run 550 in Shelburne Park?
He ran the Derby last year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Was it maybe a second ever run, or maybe it was very early in his career. Yeah, you do know a dog. He got picked up by B. What's it called? Can't think of this.
There's a few dogs start with B. Something.
No, B. Ballydoyle
B.
No. Anyway, it's kind of relevant. I'd hate now to leave that. Killer
this
B.
Really is tremendous viewing.
Killer B.
Yeah. Former national puppy stake winner. Yeah.
Thanks be to God. This can be cut, because I'd say we could cut this hour down to about 15 minutes in.
Yeah, there was a bit of stick in the middle, all right. Listen, lads, it was a pleasure. Thanks very much. Barry, best of luck in Talking Dogs on Saturday night. I'll be there. I'll be there. Over to you, Ian. I'll be there to fill the gaps for you. Have no fear. But that's it for us from Talking Dogs on a Monday. Don't forget, we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. And lots to look forward to on Saturday night, especially at Shelburne Park, the final of the Shelburne Puppy Oaks, and of course down at Limerick, the opening round of the Limerick Oaks. And that'll all be live on Talking Dogs TV with Barry Caul. But that's it for us. We'll see you soon.